My name's Tom Crespi. I'm the St. Louis AUG lead, and we have two great presentations. I'll tell you a little bit more about those in a bit. We have an AUG St. Louis first today, and maybe an City AUG first. We are being live streamed right now to YouTube. Yes? So if this goes well, we might do this a few more times. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't come, though, because they will be maybe delayed. I don't know what we'll have to talk about that one, but it's a good experiment. So thanks. So we're hosted by Expium, one of the St. Louis-based Atlassian partners. Michael back there, Lynn over there, Steve over there. You guys, as usual, great help on putting this on, so thanks so much. Thank you all for attending, because we don't have an AUG without you guys signing up and actually coming to a meeting. We have some other solution partners represented. Blended Perspectives over here. Melissa, thank you. And Amir with C Prime back there. Contigix is another locally based partner. They're not present today, but they come to most of our events. And yes, I have notes. Let's see. Oh, this event, we have two great presentations from solution partners, and we love that. We love hearing about their expertise. But we'd also love to hear from members. People love to hear from other companies. I'm sure you like to hear from what other companies are doing. If you have something to offer, please let me know. We have all kinds of types of presentations. We have our 1-minute lightning talks. We have our 5 to 10 minute thunder talks. They rumble along a little bit more. Both of those are really easy. The 1 minute, sometimes we do ad hoc. If we have enough time, we'll just say, hey, who has some 1 minute presentations to give? If you have a longer one, that's great too. Let me know, and we'll put we'll talk through it and see how long it should be, what we should call it. I'd like to see some more member presentations this year if we can. I did have a request from someone who couldn't make it tonight to ask if does anyone here use Tempo budgets? Tempo budgets, a little bit. You want to as well? So they're gathering information and trying to, they're talking to, so I won't go into it if you don't know what Tempo is, but they're talking to Tempo and they're hearing good things, but they'd like to talk to someone with experience. So I guess you'd like to hear the same thing, Christian, so can't help her there. Next meeting. So we're working on meetings in April and in June. They're probably going to be around the JIRA topic area. So if you're in the JIRA, you look for announcements soon. The one in April might just be in another month. So hopefully I'll get that put together and get that out next week. So we'll see how that all works out. And did I miss anything else? I think that's it. We do have swag up here from some solution partners. Probably at the break between the two, I'll show you some of the Atlassian swag, the new swag that we got. Before you leave, those of you that have not been to one of our meetings, we generally just have you go and honor system, choose one thing, and then go on. So I think we'll start with our first presentation. So last week? Last week, Expium sponsored a Atlassian governance forum. So what Steve's going to do, and it was full day, and a lot of us couldn't attend. So what he's going to do is give us some highlights of some takeaways. I don't know if you have a top 10 or top 5 or what you have, but I'm looking forward to hearing what you have. So you ready? I'm ready. Okay. Welcome, Steve. This guy on. From Expium.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Can you hear me okay? Technical guy in the back, we good? Okay. So, well, we are experiencing technical difficulties. Fell asleep on us, huh? It's flashing green at me. All right. Well, while it's warming up, I'll warm up the audience. How about that? Okay. So yeah, welcome to the AUG meeting, and I want to talk to you guys a little bit about an experience that we had last week, which was really a pretty neat experience. So Expium does a number of things. One of the things we do is training, and there we go. It's coming back. And as I do a lot of training classes, it's interesting. One of the things I talk about is kind of the structure of Atlassian in a company. I call it the who, the what, and the where. Like, where does your Atlassian products lie? Are they server? Are they cloud? Are they hosted? What Atlassian products do you have? Is Jira, Confluence, whatever? But more importantly, who are the people in your organization that are touching that Atlassian universe? And as I give a class, almost every single time I go through that, I really use it kind of as a setup to get into the product I'm talking about. But in almost every class that I ever give, I see hands start shooting up all over the place and saying, you know, can you help us with that? You know, we don't have a good structure set up at our company. Or, hey, I'm an admin person and I inherited an instance from somebody. Or we've got like 500 users and 50 admins, and you know we can't get things under control. There's too many people doing too many things. And after hearing that enough times, I finally started bringing that back and talking to some of the folks at Expium about it, and I said, I think there's like a real need out there for some sort of governance or some sort of structure around these instances and things. And so we got together with Atlassian and talked to them about it, and they said that sounds like a fantastic idea. So last week on March 15th, we had a full day governance forum with experts from Expium and experts from Atlassian that came together actually in this room right here. We live streamed it on YouTube as well, and we went on for about 8 hours on governance, talking about different ideas around governance, talking about different frustrations from folks on governance, and I think we only wound up getting through about 70% of our material. Michael came up to me and said, "It's 4 o'clock. We need to wrap up." And I'm like, "I'm not even done with all of our stuff yet." So it wound up being a really good opportunity for us to kind of dive into this concept of governance and the needs that people may have around governance. So what I wanted to talk to you tonight about is I want to try to take 8 hours worth of material, which really wasn't even enough time on the 15th, and condense that down to about 30 minutes worth. So I'm going to take my phone out and check it every now and then, because I'm really going to be probably pushing the envelope here of our 30 minutes. So the following slides are just a really, really small extract of what we talked about during that session. We went through a lot of different slides. We had a lot of different conversations. We talked a lot about good practices and nightmares and things like that. So there was a lot that we talked about. It was really good. Okay, so let's get rolling here. All right, first of all, just the shameless plug for who we are. We are Expium. We are a Atlassian partner. We've been around for several years. We actually have a development company, Oasis Digital, that's a sister company that's been around for even longer than we have. We really focus on primarily three things. Training, as I already mentioned. We find that a lot of people get into Atlassian. Atlassian is a fantastic product, but one of the things about it is it allows you to use it very well right out of the box. So people jump right in, they start using it. Other people find out that people are using it, they want to get involved, and it adds on, it becomes a snowball effect of products and users. And what we find a lot of times is we have people coming to our training class that have used Atlassian products for 4, 5, 6 years, and they get out of our training class a kind of like an Atlassian reformation. Like, this is the way Atlassian is really originally designed to be set up. The other thing we see a lot in training is people that have procured Atlassian for one reason or another, and they don't understand how it can meet their enterprise needs, because Atlassian is such an open-ended product. And so we talk to them in the training classes about how you can configure the Atlassian products to meet your enterprise needs, so that you're not in a situation where where your enterprise has to conform to Atlassian. So we have several training classes we do. We do a Jira Bootcamp, which is a 3-day hands-on workshop-based class. We do Success with Jira Service Desk. We do Portfolio for Jira. We do Confluence Bootcamp. and we do a lot of training classes. The next thing we do is consulting. A lot of times, especially after people have gone through our class, the next step is, can you come and help us restructure things in our organization? Can you help us build out the implementation around our Atlassian products? The consulting we do will range everything from, hey, we'll come on site and do a training class for your team on site. We'll do user training. You know, we can do batch a bunch of users together and do like half-day user trainings with them. And we actually also will do a full integration for you as well. And that can be, you know, small or large, depending on the number of users and the size of the company that you have. And then finally, custom development. So if you've been in Atlassian product at all for any period of time, you know that when it comes to Atlassian, it's a great out-of-the-box product, but you go along a little ways and you're like, oh, it would be neat if it could do this. And so then you go out to the marketplace and you go shopping with like the 3,000 plus apps that are out there and say, oh, that looks fun, that looks fun, that looks fun. And then you go to your purchasing department and they're like, no, you can have like 5% of that. So one of the things we find, though, is that after kind of going through that, sometimes people don't really have what they need. And so we actually, this is one of the fantastic parts about sistering with partnering with our sister company, Oasis Digital, because they can build out apps as a development company. And so we do all kinds of custom apps for people, some of which are out on the marketplace. And also we do, we actually help people build skins on their Atlassian products as well. All right, so that's us. So what we talked about in the governance forum was really this concept of structuring governance in a way that it will support your enterprise. So there's kind of this tension that exists in every environment between, we need our enterprise to do things, right? These are companies. They're designed to make money. Sometimes, you know, it's even a matter of, hey, we need to stay in business as a company. There's a lot of competition out there, right? So we don't want this company that's doing this work to actually be chained down or to have to reconform in order to meet the structures and standards and protocols that are necessary to have a healthy Atlassian environment. So we kind of have to live in this tension between, we need a good structure, we need good, healthy Atlassian environment, but we still need our business to be able to do what it does and make some money. So one of the things we talked a lot about was how those two can work together. And what happens a lot of times when you implement a governance process is it becomes all about the standards, it becomes all about the policies, it becomes all about the management and the control of it. And what gets left behind is the fact that the people that are actually using the software need to be part of that process. The people that are using that software need to be in the governance policy. They need to be in the governance processes. So we spend a lot of time talking about how that could work. But the governance process that we set out, and this is just a model, you can kind of shape it and flex it as you need to, really breaks up into about 4 different categories. The first category is what you call the Atlassian Steering Committee. Now, the Atlassian Steering Committee is going to be a collection of people in your company that are going to be able to do 2 things. First of all, they're going to be able to get you what you need with Atlassian products and add-ons when you need them. So typically in the Atlassian Steering Committee, you will have some senior company people in there. Some what we call Atlassian company champions. These are going to be the people that you can depend on from a senior management standpoint that are going to understand the basic fact that Atlassian is a fantastic tool. We're using it, and we're really, we really want to make sure that we're maximizing the benefit of Atlassian. So we need that senior buy-in. But also in the steering committee, you're going to want to have people that understand the product as well. Now, that can depend on whoever it is that is in your company, however big your company is, who some of your people are that are there. But you want to kind of have that blend there. Otherwise, if you don't, then it leans too much toward the structured policy side and not enough toward the actual practical side, or vice versa. So the Atlassian Steering Committee is going to be a handful of people Could be 3, could be 5, could be 10, just depending on how big your company is. And they're going to be comprised primarily of those two sets of people, and their responsibility is going to kind of fall into two categories. One is going to be to manage the governance process. So we're going to build out a structure here, and this structure is going to have intent to it. And so there needs to be a governing body that can preserve that intent. There needs to be a governing body that can adjust or tweak that intent as is needed in order for it to remain practical. And so that's what the Atlassian Steering Committee is going to do. Also things like purchasing. Anytime there's especially a major purchasing request, that's going to come up to the Atlassian Steering Committee so that they can work directly with the purchasing group. And again, hopefully you've got some champions in there so that your purchasing group is able to come alongside the users and can actually get the products or the add-ons that you need. And then, of course, the Atlassian Steering Committee's primary role is to be able to communicate with the rest of the governing body. There has to be some strong communication avenues between the Atlassian Steering Committee and the rest of the Atlassian governance body. Otherwise, it becomes too top-heavy, and you really don't get what you need from a practical standpoint out of this. So as you follow down on the pyramid, you have these parallel groups on either side, what we call the system admin group and the product admin group. Now these groups may work together from time to time, but they serve very, very important and separate roles. For example, the system admin group is going to serve the role of managing a lot of what we would loosely call the system side of your Atlassian product. This is going to be, how do we get users into our Atlassian product? And all of the functional software and hardware that does that, like the Active Directory management and things like that. Also, your system admin group is going to be overseeing things like the where of Atlassian. So if I go back to this concept of the who, what, and where of Atlassian, it's the system group that's going to manage the where. We're on the Atlassian cloud now, but we're growing from 500 users to 1,000 users, so maybe we need to migrate to server, or maybe we need to migrate to data center. This is going to be the group that's really going to be having a lot of conversations around the where side of your tools. Also things like security and compliance, especially if you're in a large organization, you're going to really have a lot of people that are going to be concerned about security and compliance. So it actually might be a good idea to have one member of that security or compliance group to actually be part of the system admin group so that they're connected to the Atlassian universe within your company. So those are kind of some of the things that the system admin group is going to be focusing on. Now there's actually some products in Atlassian that the system admin group should focus on as well. And those are going to be the products that are tied to the people side of the world, right? Like HipChat, Stride, and things like that. But most of the products are going to be on the other side of the governance triangle. Now, this here is the Atlassian System Admin Group is an interesting group because unlike any other section in the Atlassian triangle, it's going to be much more diverse. So if you think about the system structures around your Atlassian environment, especially if you're on a server like a data center or anything, you're going to have a database admin, you're going to have an email admin, you're going to have an Active Directory admin, and that's just outside of the Atlassian universe. Then inside the Atlassian universe, you're going to have a system admin. You're going to have somebody that needs to help you set up the system side of Atlassian as well. So this is going to be a very diverse group. In fact, your system admin group may be 15 or 20 people, but at any point in time, maybe a subset of that is dealing with issues or dealing with things and managing things around system governance. So that's something that you really have to work with on a case-by-case basis. What we do at Expium when we're dealing with somebody and helping them set up their governance structure is we will sit down and talk with them first and say, what kind of system do you have? Who are the players in that system? How many teams across your organization are in that system? Because that'll help us really start to understand who are these people that should be in this group. One of the things that you do not want to have happen is you do not want to kick off a major initiative, okay, and spend all your time focusing on how the product is going to be configured and spend none of your time focusing on how the system is going to be supported through that initiative. We've seen a lot of companies make this mistake. They look at their project and they think it's only going to take a few months because they're looking at it from a product integration and product configuration standpoint. Then they hit the hardware side of the world and they come to a grinding halt because the DBA is locked up doing some other projects and can't get to it till next week. And when he gets to it, finally, he realizes that this is a different database than what we had before, and the files aren't copying correctly, and it becomes a quagmire. So make sure that you put a lot of serious thought into this side of the governance triangle, because any project you do that's going to touch the system sides, you're going to want to have some sort of control, governance, and representation into those projects from your system admin group. Okay, on the other side of the triangle is going to be your product admin group. Your product admin group is really going to be where your experts are that understand the product. And this is a pretty cool thing, because again, like I said in the beginning, what we want to do is, this is a structure, right? And structures and processes can be rigid, and they can be not very helpful when it comes to actually allowing your company to do what it needs to do. But what we're going to do is, on the product administrative group, is we're going to inject into the governance process, into the governance structure, those people that understand your product. So the users, the super users, the people that are learning about specific products and things like that, the ones that are experts in various Atlassian products, these are the people that we want to mine throughout your company to be in this product administrative group. Because not only are they going to understand the big picture, okay, they're also going to be people that are going to have the ability to have the foresight. So when something comes up into the governance process, like, hey, we want this, or this is a problem and we want this changed, okay? It's going to be these experts, these super users, that are going to be able to say, yeah, but have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? So that's the type of people that we want to bring into the product administrative group. These are the people that go to Summit. These are the people that go to AUG. People that really understand a lot about the product itself. My computer keeps going to sleep on me. Not quite there yet. Okay. So functional software, tool configuration. So the system administrative side of the group, the left side of the group deals with who gets into your Atlassian products. The right side of the group is going to be the side of the group that talks about, what do these people do? What permissions do they have? What responsibilities do they have? How are we structuring them within the individual products? Okay, down at the bottom of the triangle is going to be your users, right? Your product managers, your project managers, your development managers. But don't forget, like we've been saying, a lot of the representation, or some of the representation of these people in this blue group, are actually existing above as well, because we want to mine these people and bring them into the governance process in the different levels. So you may have a project manager that's in the steering committee. If they're a super user and they've got a lot of good understanding of the products and that sort of thing. But the primary role of these folks down at the bottom, they're not, this particular blue box in the structure itself is not really part of governance, right? This is with the real world. This is where people are actually using Atlassian. So these folks down here in the bottom, their primary role is going to be talking to other folks at the bottom. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that our governance structure, of course, is fluid enough to meet people's needs, but it's not overwhelming so that all the folks that are in this triangle are constantly in governance meetings. So we depend heavily on the users down at the bottom of the triangle to work laterally first before they bring any concerns, issues, purchases, and things like that into the governance process. So as a result, what we're looking at here is we're looking at, say, a project manager who is frustrated in a project because he is trying to accomplish some sort of visualization tool out of Jira. He can't do it with the dashboards or the other features that are there, so he goes out into the marketplace, of course, and starts shopping around. So what happens is he comes up with like 3 great add-ons that can help him visualize what he wants. So without the governance structure, he immediately starts talking to the people that would be at the top of this structure, purchasing, senior leadership. Hey, we really need this app or one of these apps, right? With the governance structure, he then coordinates with the other teams first. Are you guys having the same problem? Hey, I found this fantastic app. Check it out. Let me know if this is something that would be interesting to you. Yeah, we'd like that too. Great. Let's get 3 or 4 of us and go to the APAG about it and say, hey, we'd really like to push this. Maybe one of those 3 or 4 people is actually in the APAG and they're like, yeah, this is a great idea. Let's take it right up to the ASC and get it done. Now what happens is you don't have to have 4 meetings on this. You don't have to worry about one side of the company purchasing things that the other side of the company doesn't know anything about. You don't have to worry about one person making a political faux pas because for some reason somebody thought that he was, reaching over somebody else's head. All of that becomes alleviated because the process is happening seamlessly. And when it's happening, there's much fewer meetings that have to take place because as the process rolls forward, people further up the governance triangle are already beginning to be involved in the process. So that's the real key. Now you'll notice all throughout this triangle, I've got lots of liaison sections there, which is going to be the critical part, is the communication around this triangle and making sure that things get done. So one of the things that we do with companies is we sit down and we make sure people understand this. We make sure they have this in place. If they don't, we help them structure something based on how they set things up. But the coolest thing about governance is that the Atlassian tool itself gives us the avenue for structuring our governance. So we are actually operating in a tool that already has everything we need. We don't need to build this governance process and then go set up some sort of SharePoint site to house our files on governance. No, that's what Atlassian meets our need there, right? So what we do is we sit down with companies and we say, okay, now that we've figured out what kind of governance you need, let's build that governance out for you. So we go over to Confluence. And you should, in a governance process, you should have at least 2 Confluence spaces. One's going to be your documentation space. That's where you're going to see your best practices so people don't keep making the same mistakes over and over again. Preferred structure. We like to use this workflow if at all possible. If this is not a good workflow for you, work with other project managers and try to understand why or why not. How-to documents. If you need to do something in Jira or if you need to do something in your project, this is how you accomplish it. Action dependencies. If, as a Jira admin, you touch this permission here, this is going to be the consequences of it over here. Okay, all of these are parked in Confluence in a space, so nobody has to waste time with emails or meetings in figuring this all out there. It all becomes common information for everybody to access immediately. Policy spaces. We're going to build a governance process. What is that? How do we inform employees of what that governance process is? If we get a new employee, how does he learn about our governance process, right? We put out a policy space. And on that policy space, we have an ASC structure, an APAG structure, and an ASAG structure. In that policy space, we also include in there documentation on how to take action within the governance process. You want to buy a new app? Go out to the policy space. Take a look at how, what the process is for putting into a request into the APAG or something like that. It's all there. It's all public information for anybody who wants to use it. So Confluence becomes a fantastic tool, but so does Jira. So in Jira, now the diagram you see up here on the right-hand side, or my right and your left, you'll see down at the bottom it says Business Enterprise Projects, right? In this scenario, the business enterprise projects is kind of a small part of our diagram here because this is really a diagram talking about governance. But in reality, if you were to see your whole organization, the business enterprise projects would be 95% of what you do, and the governance project would be a much smaller part. But it's important here because what we're trying to do again is we're not trying to build a structure that cripples your organization. We're trying to build a structure that is being dynamically adjusted by your enterprise's goals and needs. So we tie the business projects directly into the governance process. So what is the governance process and how can Jira help us? Well, you're going to have a bunch of policies, right? Those policies are not going to stay the same all the time. You may have a requirement in your governance process that the policies be reviewed every year. So use a Jira ticket for each policy that you have. Couple those Jira tickets together in releases. These are policies for 2018, release 2018. Next year, when we go through the policy, we change 50% of them. We couple those all together, and we call those policy release 2019. Anytime there's an event that takes place within the policy process, kick off a subtask off of that issue type, or kick off another type of it, however you want to structure it, so that you've got issue types that are tracking events that are happening. Somebody wants to put together a purchase, right? Okay, great. Again, like we talked about with the triangle, these should source from the users. These should be organic sources. So what you want to do is you want to go ahead and put together some sort of issue type that's tied to a purchase. So hey, we're going to put together a purchase. We're going to put together an issue type. We want to purchase this app for this particular product. We're going to go ahead and vote on that as a bunch of users. Once it hits 10 votes, it gets pushed up to the APAG. The APAG gets it. This is all a workflow in Jira, right? So these all make perfect sense when we start thinking about it from a Jira frame of mind. Requests, events, purchases. What if a member of your APAG decides to leave the company? Well, kick off a request to start to create a process to bring in a new member of the APAG. It could be a nomination issue type or something like that. So the entire structure can be housed within Jira itself, and so then we can manage it directly within Jira. Now, there's lines back and forth into the enterprise environment, right? So for example, if you have a policy change, that should be driven from the business enterprise. And if you have a request for new tools, that too should be coming from the business enterprise as well. So the entire governance process, once you build it for your company, you then structure it in Jira and it becomes self-maintained. And every year it just kind of continues to roll forward. And if it needs to be tweaked, it can be tweaked, and so on and so forth. So those are just kind of some high-level ideas that we talked about over like an 8-hour day. But really, I know I didn't have a whole lot of time today, so I kind of had to hit the speed button and just kind of jam as much in as I could in a half an hour. But we have about maybe 5 more minutes. So anybody have any questions or thoughts that you'd like to ask or talk about on this concept? Yeah.
Here, hold on, I've got a microphone for the folks that are watching.
Oh, thank you. My question is really is regarding the size of the company that you want these governance to be built for. What is that size is permitted for that type of governance?
Right.
Are you looking for a huge company, or this is really applies for a 10-member company or 20-member company, or
yeah? So the question is when you're looking at a governance structure like this, when do you implement this into a company? What size should the company be when you start looking at this, and how should this match up to the size of the company, right? A company that has 10 users should have a governance process. That entire governance process is probably controlled or managed by just one person, right? But the problem we see, and we talked a lot about this in the forum, is Atlassian's growth is explosive. Like, there were 90,000 companies that were using Atlassian products when we were at Summit back in the fall. Now, if you go online, they say there's about 115,000. That explosive growth is not just happening with Atlassian, it's happening in your companies as well. So what winds up happening is if we don't get ahead of the curve on that, we wind up finding ourselves in a situation where, oh my gosh, my database is a mess, or oh my gosh, I have all these users and I've got 10,000 permission schemes. And the reason why is because you don't start from the very beginning. So in the companies that have very, very small user sets, you don't have to go through this entire process. You just need some people that understand the concepts. As you grow to 25 to 50 users, then you need to start memorializing these concepts. You need to start putting together a structure within Atlassian to capture these. Because don't forget, at any point in time, and this is the biggest risk for companies that are small user sets, at any point in time, your Atlassian expert may go out the door. And all of a sudden, everything that they have done is gone. If you have the governance process structured within Atlassian from the beginning, including the documentation, the standards, and all that kind of stuff, none of that leaves with him. The next person moves in, all he needs to do is tell his boss, look, I need a week down in Boca Raton to sit on the beach and read all these documents. Then I come back and I'm as good as the guy that just left.
But at the same time, the governance that you apply to the bigger corporation, they have already some other, software that they're using with the same kind of quality, or maybe less or more.
Sure.
How that affects those type of teams.
Right. So if you're in a big company, like 10,000 people in a company, and there's a branch of the company that introduces Jira into it, at first, that's not going to be a major initiative in a company. In fact, I know one of the companies here in St. Louis that's doing that. And we've been working with them very remotely because they're not at the point yet where they can really jump in and do stuff. But what I've been telling them all along is get some processes in place. Because what's going to happen is there's going to be a point in time, it's going to be a tipping scale. There's going to be a point in time when 10, 15, 100 users are going to find out about this software, start using it, and all of a sudden it's going to roll over, and suddenly there's going to be executives in your company that are going to hear about this software, and that's when they're going to start talking to people that brought the software in and said, what kind of controls are on this? And then the people that brought the software in and said, well, we are trying to build this type of governance framework. Now that you've gotten word of this, we would love for you to be our senior champion in this and start building this process. So, is there a comment in back, Christian? Yeah.
So we had the same problem. Jira came in organically through our environment. We had about 100 people using it. Then we rolled it out to one team and went up to 700 people overnight, and then 2,000 people within 2 months after that. And as a result, we have over 3,000 hours of technical debt along our process and governance that we've accumulated, which means that like when Jira rolled out the abilities for teams to manage their own workflows or own screen schemes, we had so much technical debt and extra dead statuses that did not work into our governance process that we can't turn on those features or enable teams to self-manage because of the technical debt we've accumulated. So without a governance process in the beginning, you're ultimately going to set your teams up for failure.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And it's not just with that, it's also like when you've got that many people and that much of a complicated structure, when you bring in a new app, how is that app going to affect the other apps? You know, unless you've gone through the investigatory process you need at the ground level, then people don't know that. How much time do we have here, Tom? We good for another few more minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe a couple more questions.
Oh, great.
Go, Tom, go.
So this is interesting to a lot of us and me. I'm wondering if, and since this is new to you, it's a lot to get one's arms around, you know, just with a couple slides. Have you guys thought of like a level one understanding, some kind of a takeaway that people can have, not even just here, but just out there to understand this whole concept and get maybe even started at a ground level?
The answer is yes. We're actually working directly with clients right now to go through this process with them. And you're right, it is a little overwhelming. So everybody knows the pain points. Not everybody knows how to get out of that. And so you kind of need to have sometimes a new set of eyes to come in and say, okay, this is kind of where you are right now. This is where would be helpful to you. But we need you guys to buy into this because, again, we don't want the tail wagging the dog in this. We don't want to freak out because there was an admin mistake or there's hundreds of hours of work that needs to be done to clean up a database, and so we're going to slap a governance process down and nobody knows anything about it, nobody's bought into it, nobody's participating in it. You know, that becomes a tail wagging the dog situation. So what we want to do is we want to get these people that are feeling the pain into a room together and say, what's your processes right now? What are your frustrations right now? And we can take that back and we can build a structure around it. And then, like I gave in the presentation, the cool thing about it is once you build that structure, Atlassian already has the framework for implementing it. You just go ahead and implement it. And so, yeah, that is definitely, but it takes a little bit of time. This isn't just something you can do overnight. Was that, I don't know if there was a question in the front row, but no. Okay.
Have you guys done anything experimental? Be this software developed under the governance and all of those things that you want on a smaller scale, but be experimental. Means that you have a limit, just 1 year, to see if this part of the organization can adapt properly to these type of changes. Have you guys done that?
All right.
You can't keep me quiet
Michael,
for forever.
Michael has to jump in. All right.
Okay,
go
so
ahead.
we've got two sides of the shop. We've got a software development shop, Oasis Digital, and we've got Expium, which is the Atlassian partner. So we deal with the governance issue when we're onboarding an enterprise application into a large company. So we've been through this process so many times with, we're having to onboard this open source set of tools with 10,000 dependencies, and what do we do with that? Because everything else in prior enterprise applications in this company didn't have any external dependencies. So how do we vet all that? How do we go through all that? So that whole process it's tried and true. I mean, yes, we're applying it to the Atlassian tool set here, but it's definitely a tried and true process. And so we're kind of blending some of the experience that some of our team has in other sectors with some of our experiences with large enterprise clients, and we're kind of pulling it together in a manageable framework. And Steve has done a great job working on this for some time. But it's not like it's a new idea, I guess is what I would say. This is a system that'll work.
Yeah, I used to work for a Fortune 500 company here in St. Louis, and I will tell you the hardest thing about this process is not going to be structuring the process. It's going to be protecting your users and your people so they don't feel sequestered by the process. It's going to be inviting the users to be part of it. It's going to be continuing to open up that conversation with users to make sure that they're still empowered and they don't feel like a new process is coming in to change everything that they've done and kind of take them out of the scenario. So, okay. I know we don't have any more time to talk about this tonight, and I'm going to actually be stepping out before the event is over tonight. So I'm going to leave up by the Expium swag some of my business cards. If this is a topic that you think you guys want to talk more about in your company, grab one of my cards, shoot me an email, give me a call, and we can talk more about it. Or talk to Michael in the back, the guy with the same governance sweatshirt on that I have. So.
Thank you, Steve. So while Joe is setting up, I'll show you some of the new swag that Atlassian sent. We never know until we open the box. So this is the new Confluence logo. So this is a Confluence shirt. Pretty cool color. And many sizes. And the other one is, unfortunately, not Jira for you Jira folks. Anybody know what logo this is? Stride, exactly. So this is and it says it has the product names on the
Goodness.
on the sleeve there. Yeah. So that's coming later. Let me see if there's anything else in here. It needs to be all laid out on the table. We got some new tumblers. Yeah, just a few tumblers. So shirts, t-shirts, and tumblers. All right. All right. So, how you doing setup?
About 45 seconds.
45 seconds. Okay. So I'll just start the intro on Joe. So, and on what his topic is. So, would you consider the first presentation sort of left brain? Sort of. Okay. Because this is left brain, right brain. So this is more on kind of the creative side, I would say. I went to the first summit in 2009 and was introduced to another product that these guys compete with called Glyphy. So it's a very interesting space of doing diagramming and such in tools. These guys have taken off, and I don't know the whole history. He might share some of that, but being able to produce, I shouldn't take your thunder. Anyway,
I don't have any thunder to steal. So.
Now, by the way, Joe, Steve came from an office like a few steps over this way. Joe just flew in this afternoon from Utah. Oh no, well he's from Utah, but you came in from
Austin.
Austin.
Yeah.
Right, down with Atlassian. So he's here for the night. He didn't have time to see the arch, so he has to come back. So hopefully we'll figure out a way to do that. So Joe does this kind of stuff in sales, and he also does counsel for the company. So he's a very busy guy. And so welcome, Joe. And Joe, look forward to hearing you talk.
Yeah, thanks, Tom.
Okay, you bet.
All right. Hey, everybody. Like Tom said, my name is Joe McFarlane with Lucid Charts. I came from Salt Lake, so it's good to be here. I used to live in Iowa and Illinois, but it's the first time in St. Louis, so happy to be here. And I wanted to give a quick plug before I get started. We have a Lucidchart Connect event in Chicago in July. If you're interested, TBD, the exact date, but it's in July. Basically, at one of our user conferences. We're doing these all around the country this year. We're about to have our first one in Austin next week. So just want to make you aware of that. Let me know if you want some more details on it. So here's the outline of what we're going to talk about tonight. I'll give an introduction of me, our company, kind of who we are, what we do, the problem that Lucidchart solves using a DocuSign case study that we've done, some overview and examples of what Lucidchart is, what you can do with it. Then we'll jump into a demo. I wanted to give you that link in case you're interested in a trial. Usually we do credit card required trials, which I know isn't a huge deal, but you can have this link and you can do it without a credit card. It's a 7-day trial, pretty short, but if you want a longer one, let me know. I can help you with that. After the demo, we will talk about competitors a little bit, our 2 different offerings that we have. You can kind of give me feedback of, hey, I use X product, it did this, Lucidchart doesn't do that, or vice versa. Happy to have a discussion. And then we'll do a summary and a raffle at the end. And Tom, I sent you a text. I forgot my little notepad that people are going to write their names down for the raffle. I don't know if you had a notepad or something that we could do, or some way to randomly choose 2 people. I'll let you think about how to do that. I'll task you with that. Okay, thanks, Tom. Appreciate your help. Okay, so Lucid Software and me, we were formed in 2010. I was telling someone our origin stories. Our founder was using Microsoft Visio for a school project, and he is way smarter than me, and he didn't like it, and he decided, I'm just going to build something else. And so he just built another piece of software to do his project. We are now up to 280 employees. Actually, that should be 300 employees now. We're growing so quickly. I need to update my slides more often. We are headquartered in Salt Lake City. Almost all of us are in Salt Lake. And I've been at the company for a little over 2.5 years. So I've been to my fair share of summits and Aws. And happy to say that I am a recovering attorney. Very proud of that. Although I'm still doing a little bit at the company. Okay. Any French speakers in the audience? Can anyone tell us what this says? This is a pipe? Is that what you said? It's not a pipe. Okay. But it is a pipe, right? Okay. So, and how do we know it's a pipe? You can see it, right? Based on our experience, in just like a fraction of a second, you know that this is a picture of a pipe, right? So down here, you probably can't see it, but this says Magritte. He's the artist. Presumably, he's the one that painted this beautiful pipe and wrote this text. But no matter what Magritte is telling you about this pipe, you don't believe him, right? You don't believe the text. That's the power of images, right? That's how powerful images are. No matter what anyone tells you, you know that that's a pipe based on your experience. So not only can images convey like a very quick message, but they can do it so very accurately, right? Our brains can process images so quickly. So what if I was to describe this pipe? How many words do you think it would take to describe this pipe? Well, I took a shot at it. It's about 250 words. And if you had never seen this pipe before, I just showed you this text first, you would see a pipe in your mind, right? But you would not see this pipe, right? It would take you, first of all, it'd take you a few minutes to get through this. And then you would be creating the image of the pipe in your mind, right? Not me, not Magritte, you. You'd be the artist or the creator of the image. That's what makes novels so engaging and rich and compelling, right? Is that you are the creator of the imagery. Yes, the author can paint you a picture, so to speak, but in the end, you're the one creating it. You create the characters, you create the images in your mind, and that's what makes it so engaging, which is great. It's great for fiction reading, right? It's terrible for business in the business setting, right? So let's say Tom is our boss, and he's up here, and he's giving this great presentation about what we as, let's say we're developers, and we need to go build something. And he were to tell us about it and write it up here, and then we were the ones that created it in our mind what we were to build, right? Or what if Michael got up here and was talking about governance and was telling us all about it, and then we left the room and we thought, okay, I think I know what he's talking about, and we create the process in our minds. That's not what we want in the business setting. Sure, there are times where we need to be creative and ideate and create and brainstorm. But when we're trying to describe a process or a system or build something, we want to be really precise, right? I want you to leave this room and I want you to see this. I don't want you to see this, right? We don't want our customers imagining what our products are or services are. We want them to know exactly what they are. And that's what we can do with Lucidchart. Okay, so it allows you to visualize any system or any process. Right, visual communication. So let's look at the example here at DocuSign. So this is a photo of an actual DocuSign conference room. This is, these are Post-it notes. This is yarn, and this is string. Okay? Oh, sorry, this is yarn, and this is Scotch tape. That's what I meant to say, Scotch tape. And what they were doing is they were flying in people from all over the country into this conference room. This is actually just a subsection of it. There's probably 3 or 4 more swim lanes. And they were building this process together. That's how they were collaborating. It sounds silly, but you can see how this happens, right? 2 people are in a conference room, and one says, "Hey, let's visualize this." So they grab a pen and they start whiteboarding, and they say, "You know what? We need Tom from St. Louis to come in and help us with this." So they fly in Tom, and all of a sudden they spent days and weeks and months and all this money building out this process. So here's the problem: teams need a scalable, easy-to-use solution for documenting information visually and then disseminating that visual work across the team members that are working in disparate applications, workflows, and locations. Okay, so we're all spread out both physically in our different workplaces and our workflows, and we need to communicate visually in all these different areas, and we need to do it easily, right? And so the solution is Lucidchart. It's a sophisticated digital whiteboard. It's accessible anytime, anywhere, any operating system, any browser. And our deep integrations allow teams to incorporate their documentation into their current workflows. So you don't need to leave Confluence to communicate visually. You don't need to leave Jira to communicate visually. You don't need to leave Office 365 or Box or G Suite. Wherever else you're working, you can incorporate this documentation. So this is how we work in the Atlassian ecosystem. I always like to talk about this because most people just think, most people are used to apps or add-ons. We are not that. Our main product is this right side here. It's the lucidchart.com account. So you go to lucidchart.com, you can access your diagrams there, and then you can integrate them wherever else you're working. So in this case, in Atlassian, it'd be Confluence in Jira and HipChat. So you can connect those accounts, you buy the lucidchart.com license, and then you get those free integrations wherever else you're working. We do have, confusingly, we do have an app, a traditional app that you can buy through the marketplace, buy through Atlassian. We call it Lucidchart Diagrams on-prem for Confluence. It's literally, you go to the marketplace, you buy it, just like your regular apps. You install it in the Confluence. It's like a boxes and arrows diagramming tool within Confluence. So I honestly only recommend that for people who absolutely have to be behind the firewall. We'll talk about in a minute why, as I show you the lucidchart.com connector. But it's really meant just be simple boxes and arrows within Confluence. All right, so that's the visual representation of how we work with Atlassian. Now I'll give it to you in text form. 11 million plus users worldwide, about 10,000 new users every day. Here are 2 offerings. This is our standalone, lucidchart.com, with integrations pretty much wherever else you are working. And then we have the Confluence app for those that need to be behind the firewall. Have about 15,000 active Confluence installs, 3,000 Jira installs. And the one license gives you dozens of integrations, right? You come to us, you buy it, lucidchart.com, you can get integrations wherever else you're working, and then it's flexible licensing as well. So if you have 10,000 people at your company, but only 100 need to be diagramming, you just need to buy the 100 licenses. Everyone else in the company can view those documents and comment on them for free. So free comment-only licenses for everybody, and then you only need to pay for those creating and editing. Okay, some examples. So this is a user data flow. As data flows from the user down into the server, how are we encrypting it? When are we encrypting it? This allows you to map that out, see where what's happening with that data. I love this one, marketing email campaigns. So this is one that we've used in-house. This is our marketing team created this. When people come to our website, they can sign up for a bunch of different SKUs, a bunch of different types of licenses, and then what are the campaigns that we're sending them? What email flows are they getting and when? I could describe this with bullet points, right? But look how easy it is to visualize this. Not only that, but you can see these ones are green and these ones are blue. If I click on these green ones, this will jump me to a wireframe that you can also build in Lucidchart. So we've linked them, and so now not only can I see what the campaign is, but I can click on these different emails and I can see a wireframe of what that email is going to look like. Brainstorming. I love that my team uses this one a lot. We'll get together, we'll share a document, and we can real-time collaborate in real time. You can see this one is highlighted if you're familiar with Google Docs, right? When someone is in here and they're clicking around, I can see what they're doing, and in real time we can all be in this diagram together, be making changes to it. So we talked about earlier about being very accurate, but in this case we are brainstorming, right? We're just getting it all out there, and really easily, right? How many of us have whiteboarded and then taken a photo of it and then had to recreate it in Visio or something, right? Let's stop doing that, all right? You don't need to do that anymore. This is great. And plus, once you move these around, you don't need to like erase it with your hand. It's a digital whiteboard. It's awesome. Okay, application form. Someone comes to your website, fills out a form. What happens to what's the UX look like for them, and what do we do on the back end? How are we reaching out to them? AWS. I don't know if you have any AWS users out there, but we have an AWS import tool. So for years, diagramming was boxes and arrows. Now we're taking data that you already have and we're helping you visualize it. So we built this internally because our head of DevOps was spending a whole week trying to map out the infrastructure. Now this takes maybe 5 minutes to do this. Pings your infrastructure, pulls it in, and draws it for you automatically. Similarly, network architecture, if you're doing your own hosting, how the databases how the servers are talking to one another and connected. UML diagrams, ERD diagrams. Similarly, you can query your database, and these connections will be drawn for you automatically in Lucidchart. Okay, another diagram that I really like. One of our customers, Mozilla Firefox, shared this with us. This is how they authenticate users that come to their website. Again, trying to describe this with text would be nearly impossible. So not only can we visualize it, but I also like it because it's easy to diagnose issues, right? For you UX, UI people out there, like what is the experience? Like why are they doing this, for example, right? You can diagnose where there might be a bug or where there might be some like a bottleneck in user experience. Okay, tonight I'm going to show the Confluence integration, but this is what the Jira one looks like. I'm working here in a Jira ticket, Jira issue, and then I can add Lucidchart diagram as an attachment. Similarly with HipChat, we can be chatting or Slack, or chatting in HipChat or Slack, and then I can just throw in a diagram, and then we can jump in. We can be whiteboarding together. You can even do iOS, Android mockups. I'll be completely honest, it's not the greatest tool for designers, like if you're a hardcore designer, but it is what I like to call the Swiss Army knife of diagramming. It does a little bit of everything. So like I've used it for wireframes and mockups. I am not a designer, so I'll put something together like this and I say, hey, designers, make this look great. This is kind of what I'm thinking. And then now after I share it with them, they can go out and design something great. This is, remember we talked about the marketing flow. We are linking those emails to something like this. Even floor plans, if you want to map out seating charts and floor plans, and org charts as well. So we have a CSV import to org charts as well. So you can take a CSV, import that to Lucidchart, and it'll draw this for you automatically. The photos are actually, one of the columns is a URL link, and then when you pull it in the Lucidchart, it'll ping that URL, and then it'll pull the photo in for you. All right, so let's see how it's done. So one more time for the URL if you wanted to look at that. And I want the demo to be interactive. I tend to find that Lucidchart is kind of it's a very creative tool. So as I'm diagramming, you'll probably be thinking about different ways, different things it can do. So shout them out, ask questions, challenge me, and then we'll have a good demo. Sound good? All right. So I mentioned I can go to lucidchart.com. Did we lose it? Ah, there we go. Okay, so I can go to lucidchart.com, access my diagrams here. That's usually how I work out of it, just because I'm not in Confluence or not in Jira a ton. I actually use, I'm ashamed to say it, but I use Microsoft Word quite a bit. So every now and again I'll pull in a diagram from here and pull it into Word. Otherwise, I'm going to show you what it looks like from Confluence. So here I'm in the Confluence page. and I am adding text. And I start typing out some bullet points, and I realize, you know what, that's not very efficient. I could add 100 bullet points, but instead I'm just going to show visually what the point I'm trying to get across here. So I've already taken my lucidchart.com account and linked it to Confluence. So I can click on the insert more content and come down here to Lucidchart diagrams. Okay, now this will pull up my documents list. So from here, I can just click on select, and that would insert a document. I can import. So believe it or not, we make it very easy to switch from our competitors. So if you're Visio users, Glyphy, Draw.io, we have mass Glyphy and mass Visio import as well. So if you're moving the entire company over, you can pull them all in at once. The Visio import and export is really helpful too if you're working with someone outside the company, or maybe you have some legacy Visio users. So they can be working in Visio, they share it with you, you pull it in the Lucidchart, make some changes, and then you can export it back to Visio. Really, really nice feature. I can also insert a template. We have thousands of templates here, or insert a new document. But let's make some changes to this current one that we have. I really like this feature. If you hover over, you can see the multiple tabs on the diagram. Let's pull this up and make some changes before we insert it. All right, so this will launch the editor. If you're familiar with diagramming, this will probably look somewhat familiar to you. We call this area the canvas. These are our shape libraries here on the left. It's our toolbar on the top, so our properties bar. So text editor, so any changes to text or shapes, arrows, colors, anything you want to make, you can make that up here. And then here's our toolbar on the right with some advanced features that we'll talk about. All right, can everybody see that okay? Yeah. All right, so let's come down here and let's start diagramming. So I can click on this gear icon in the upper left. This will pull up our shape library. All I need to do is check and uncheck to add it to the bar here on the left. Thousands of shapes, pretty much anything you need, but if there's something that you don't see, you can add you can import Visio stencils, import SVGs, any shapes that you needed. So go ahead and save that, and now I can go ahead and start diagramming. So it's drag and drop. If I can do it this easily, anybody can do it. We recently added this bar to, depending on what shape library you're using. So in this case, I'm using these swim lanes. I can easily add more lanes. I can switch the orientation. It makes it really easy for you. And then from here, I'm just dragging and dropping the shapes onto the canvas. So we give you these little red dots, suggestions of where to grab the lines. And then once I drop the line, it'll give you the suggestion for the next shape based on what library you're using. And then these little blue things are great too to show lining up your objects, especially when you're a little bit OCD like me and you want to make things just right. And then it shows you the distances too, and once you get to the same distance, it'll give you that little, I don't know if you can see that, but that little blue arrow too that shows you that you're at the same distance. We also give you these little helps here too. Once you're like using a decision, it'll pull yes out for you, and it'll pull no out for you. I can change that text if I wanted to. And then you can see just in a matter of seconds, I've created a nice looking flowchart. All right. So that's just the basic drag and drop functionality. Again, it's super easy. What I love about Lucidchart, it's so easy to use, but it also has like advanced features that enterprises need. So let's look at sharing. So now that I've created this beautiful diagram, I'm gonna click share, upper right. Lots of different options for sharing. If you do it this way, you can add people by their email address. You can add by groups. So you can add like your development teams, whatever teams you want in the user settings, and then you can control permissions here. So I like to use our Slack integration. Oops. So you can share to channels. So I can do this and share to like our general channel. And then now this will post this to the general channel. And if I'm going to do that, I'm going to limit it to view only, right? Because I don't want everyone making changes. But if I wanted to, I could do edit and share. So I could share that to everybody. Everybody could get in there. We could be making changes. We could be collaborating. And then I can always go back in. You can see I've shared it previously with people. I can go back in and edit it, and I can change their permissions. So I'll I'm going to share it with everybody, let everyone make changes, and then I'm going to go back in and lock it down to view only. I can also publish this as a link, which is great if you're sharing externally. So I'll do this. I'll create a diagram and I'll create a link and then share that. I'll email that to people, publish it on social. You can even embed through HTML code onto your website. All right, other ways to collaborate. So let's say I'm working on this with Tom and I get to this point. I think I don't know what he means by this. I can right click and add a comment, and then I can @ mention him. So let's just do myself so he doesn't get pinged, and I can say, what does this mean? And now Tom will get an email that I have commented, and when he comes in, he can see this comment here. This can be a little tricky if we have a lot of people working on this diagram, right? If there's 40 of us working on it and we have lots of comments, I click here on the comments and I can see a running total of all the comments. And then, sorry, hide that. Let's say we have, like I said, we got a bunch of people working on it. We got a bunch of different tabs, and I come over here and I see this comment, and I'm like, where is this comment? I can click on this pin tab, and it'll jump me right to that comment. That way I know exactly what Tom's talking about. I can click here. Okay, that's what you wanted me to see. Comments are all internal for the editors. So once I go to publish this and share it, no one will be able to see the comments. So if I wanted to add some additional information though, and I wanted everybody to see it, I can add a note. So if I right click and click add note, I could add some additional info. And then now this note will show up, and anyone that comes to this diagram will see this note. So that's really nice. Rather than like popping it out and trying to like write more text here and describe it, I can just add this little note, keep things organized.
And that shows to even once you publish it, does that show up everywhere?
That's right, yeah. The notes will show. So once I go to publish it, you'll see this, but you won't see the comment. Yep, great question. Okay, I'm talking a lot, so keep the questions coming. All right, hotspots and layers. So let's say you are working on a new process, like you're in change management, or you're a consultant, or you just have seen a process that you're working on that isn't very efficient, and you want to propose something new. So what you can do is you can draw out your process, and you can use layers to show a present state and a future state. So on the right side here, we have this layers button, and you can see I've created these layers on top of this diagram. And if I turn this one off, I can turn that present state off, and I can turn this future state on. So really nice way to show value for your ideas, or maybe value of your services or products. Say, hey, this is where we're at right now. This is where I'm going to take us, or this is where we could be doing. This is a little bulky, I know, and this won't show up actually when you go to present it. So we've solved for that through something called hotspots. So if I right click, let's do it here. I can right click and I can add hotspot. You can see I've already added them down here. And we call these hotspots because they do a bunch of different actions. So maybe this represents a complicated sub-process that I want to link to, or maybe this is like a funny cat video that I want to show someone, or like an instructional video, or an instruction manual, and I want to link it. So I can link it externally. I can link it to an email, so it'll send an email out. I can link it to another page in the diagram. I can link it to another Confluence page. I can link it to a Jira issue. We will use these internally. We use this for our epics. So we'll build out the epic, and then we'll link it to the Jira epic and the other Jira tickets. But what you can also do is you can toggle layers on and off. You can see here I've clicked on toggle layers, and so when I come to this hotspot and click on it, it will toggle that layer on and off. You could also just pop this out if you wanted to, and leave this hotspot not part of the diagram. And so when someone comes here, they can just click on that and show that present state and future state. In this case, for this one, let's say this was like a really complicated sub-process in this process. Come down here. This is the one it represents. So what I've done is I've linked the two. So when I click here, it'll jump me over to that other page. And then I can go and view that from there. We also have a history button, so once a bunch of us might be working on this together, and you get in, you say, hey, that looks really different from last time I saw it. Oh, that's why, because Joe got in and made a ton of changes. You can click and you can revert back to those previous versions if you need to. I mentioned importing. We have this this data linking feature. It's new this past year, where you can take CSVs and you can take that information in the CSV and link it to certain shape data. We've combined that with conditional formatting as well, so you can write rules for conditional formatting. Use cases are still being developed here, but one of our big ones, we have a big manufacturing company that will use this to have the whole floor mapped out as changes get made to basically they track how machines are running and their outputs, and then that shape that machine information is linked from that CSV into their Lucidchart diagram, and then they have rules that once that machine output reaches a certain spot, it'll turn red, so they can constantly understand how their floor is running and where their machines are at. All right. Okay, how's it going so far? Any features that you wanted to see? Yeah.
With the hotspot, right now you're in edit mode, right?
Yes.
You're in the edit mode, and when you publish that in Confluence, will you still be able to do that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, the hotspots will still be active.
Okay.
Yep, great question. Yeah.
The CSV import that you just showed, is that we have to get the CSV uploaded every single time, or is it pulling dynamically from some source?
It will bring in dynamically. Yeah. Once you've linked it, all you need to do is hit the refresh button, and it'll refresh your data.
Okay, and
Yep.
Is just CSV the only integration? Is there other
CSV
data
and Google
sources?
Sheets. CSV and Google Sheets.
Google Sheets, okay.
Yep, those would be the two. We're working on a lot more, but those are the two we have so far.
Cool, thanks.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Keep shouting them out as you think of them. I have one more feature that I want to show before we show the integration. So actually, let's click out of that first. Okay. Let's say you've created this diagram. This is a process that you know very well. You live it, you breathe it every day, and now you need to go present it to your boss or to a customer. If you just put this up on the screen like that, first of all, you can't see it, right? It's too small. But second, for whatever reason, we as humans, when there's words up on the screen, you try to read them. I don't know why we do that, but we do. So if you put this diagram up and it's legible like this, you're all trying to read that right now, right? As I'm talking. It's just what we do. And you're not going to be able to listen to what I'm saying and read at the same time. But this is a really important presentation to a client or to a boss that you need to make. And you need to get the point across and really help this person understand this diagram. So what we can do is break this down into manageable chunks. So if you click on the slides button on the right side here, you can see we have these little orange boxes. And I click the plus sign, and this will add another slide, and I can drag this over to wherever I want it. And what I've done is I've broken this down into segments. So now when I go to present this, I can click on this present button. And now as I tab over with my arrows, I can break this down for you one piece at a time, right? So you can, not only are you going to see only what I want you to see, one piece at a time, but it also means something to move through the diagram. Prezi's they're friends of ours. If you've ever used Prezi, we have a mutual investor. They call this meaningful movement, right? It means something to move from this part of the diagram to the next, to flow through it, right? I love this feature. It's really nice because I put a lot of work into this diagram, right? And now I need to make it understandable. And this is how you can do it, rather than throwing 90 shapes up there and trying to walk the person through it one step at a time. Right, so now I can walk them through. This used to be our inbound sales process. You can even add things like slow motion, in case you want to be dramatic about something. You can highlight things and unhighlight things. And then I like to I'll do like a big slide. I didn't do very well here, but you can make a big slide so you can zoom back out, and then you can come back in with another small slide. So that's presentation mode. Will the hotspots reflect in?
If you have a hotspot and then you click and it shows some extra information there, how would that work well with the slides too, or that's separate just for a static view?
Yeah, let's give it a shot here. So let's link this to another page. Let's link it to our Atlassian integrations. And now let's present this. There it is. You see, I don't know if you can see that. It changes from a cursor to a hand. And I click on that. It should jump us to the other page. Yep. So the hotspots are still active. Yep. All right. Okay. Anything else that you wanted to see in the editor? Anything that you didn't see that another tool does, or any follow-ups?
Go into the collaboration part of it a little bit.
Yeah. You bet. Does anyone have their laptop by chance? If not, that's fine. No worries. So if I go to share this with somebody, and I've shared it with these people, and let's say, okay, I share it with Tom. Once Tom gets in here, I will be able to see his icon here, just like in Google Docs. Right? I'll be able to see that he's in here, and then as he clicks around, it'll look just like that. Like it'll be highlighted, and I can see his. I'll be able to see his initials here. And then as changes get made, I'll be able to see those in real time. So that's a real-time collaboration. Again, when like my team gets together, we'll either share this, like we're all here together, I'll share this with all of you, and then we can just be looking at our own screens and doing it all together. Or maybe one person will be up here and we'll just whiteboard together. I know real-time collaboration isn't the only way people collaborate, so comments would be another one. So I'll share it with you. You look at it whenever you get a chance, and then you can comment on things. That's another really common way too. Like I share this big document with you. We probably won't look at it at the same time, but you'll have a lot of questions for me. So you can come over here and you can mention me. You can post those comments on there. Does that answer your question? Okay, great. Anything else that anyone want to see? Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's great.
Here
comes the mic.
I'm sorry. The app that you have for Confluence, does it come with the same set of features?
Yes. Yes and no, I guess. It is. So it's on-prem app, right? So some of the cloud features won't be there. Like there's no app mentioning. We have a chat feature as well. You can chat together if you're remote. You can chat together. So we won't have that. You will have to match your Confluence tier as well. So you have to buy it through Atlassian, and they make you match your Confluence tier. So whatever your Confluence size is, that's how many licenses you have to buy of it. What else? Those would probably be the biggest ones. Oh, and it's just within Confluence, right? So if I ever wanted to create a diagram, I have to go into Confluence to do that.
But we could still collaborate.
Still collaborate, yeah. We still have real-time collaboration. We've hacked it to be able to do that. Yeah, you can post it on there. People can come in. You control the permissions still. So if I wanted failed to mention that. Every diagram you create is private. So this is completely private until you share it. Then once you share it, people will do whatever they want to it as far as the permissions you give them. Same thing with Confluence page. You share it to a Confluence page. Whatever permissions you set, people can go on and make changes to it or just see it. Yeah, good question.
And it integrates only with Confluence.
Yeah, just the app is just within Confluence. But if I'm using the connector, I can take this and I can connect this account to my Jira. Jira Server and Confluence Server as well. Yeah, the cloud account. Yeah. Okay, anything else that anyone want to see before we go back? Okay, great. All right, so now we've made our changes. Now let's go back to Confluence. And we do that because this says back to Confluence. We know how to get there. All right. So here's our diagram. You can see the updates there. There it is. There's that diagram we created. And we'll go ahead and select that. Now this will stick it onto our Confluence page. If I wanted to, I could add more text at the bottom or anywhere else on the page. And then I'm going to go publish this. So now, because this is a dynamic integration and we're not just adding an image, this is a dynamic living, breathing diagram. So you can see these tabs are still here. We can tab through this diagram. These hotspots are still active. We asked about that. So you can see this changes from a cursor to a hand. Remember what this one did? Turn our layer on and off. This one jumped us to the other page, remember? And then, oops, our presentation mode is also still active. So that way, me as the creator, you are all consuming this as I want you to consume it, right? You're still seeing everything. You're still seeing the links. And we can go back in and make changes to it. Oh, the comments. Remember we talked about the comments. Comment is gone, right? That was just for the editors, but the note is still there, the additional info note. Yeah?
If I embed one of these on my Confluence page, the presentation mode still works?
Yes.
And people can walk themselves through it?
There you go. Yes. So that's right. So this is embedded onto the Confluence page. Tab over to this presentation mode, and yes, that's, oops. Yep, that's live. Yeah, it's going. Yeah, so everything that we saw on that present mode, so I'll show you, I'll open that back up. Essentially, when you hit present in the editor itself, so now we're in the editor now, and I just hit present. Everything that you can do here in this presentation mode is still, you see that's still active. That link is still there. Remember this link? That one's still going. All of this is still functional in that macro on the Confluence page. And then if we want to make changes, we could edit the page and edit the diagram. Yeah, great question. All right. Okay, let's jump back in. Sorry, lost my cursor here. There we go. So what did you think as far as competing tools? What did you like, didn't like, something that you didn't do that you wanted to see? I put these features up here because these are, I think, ones that set us apart from competitors, especially on the bottom, those advanced functionalities of linking data and pulling in data, as well as like our security features like SSO, SAML, domain lockdown, things like that. So competitors continued. I mentioned the mass Glyphy, mass Visio import, and one license to rule them all, right? You just have to buy the one license and you get all those integrations. Here's the question about the difference between on-prem and Lucidchart. This one is now, we have all these advanced functionalities for on-prem as well, so that's outdated. But otherwise, like the pricing and the mobile app, integrations, things like that. Basically just what you would expect from a tool that's on-prem and limited to Confluence. Okay, so in summary, so the one license to many integrations, it works where you are. Our Google Slides is actually a really popular one too. So you're creating a presentation, you click the plus button, you can pull in a diagram right into your presentation. So we work where you are. Ease of use, so we have the advanced features that development teams need, but it's also super easy to use. It does a little bit of everything, and then you can collaborate to create professional diagrams. So connect with me. I'm super active on LinkedIn. Love to connect, love to answer any questions you have, and thanks again for having me.
Thank you, Joe. Let's see. What do we got to do to get you guys out of here? We'll get these out on the table. Any questions for me or Joe while he's still here? Yes.
The licensing strategy is that if you have to, so you pay if you edit, you pay per license if you edit, and then it's free if you just comment out.
Exactly. Yeah. So if I had a license and I shared it with you, you would have to create an account, but it'd be a free account. And if you wanted to make changes, you'd have to have a paying account. Yeah, or a trial, I guess, as well. Yep.
Mine's more of a technical question.
Meet me halfway.
All right, I'll keep my fingers crossed that I can answer it.
All right. When you have multiple tabs, how do I reference a particular tab in the Confluence macro?
How do you reference?
Multiple Lucid Charts tabs. I want to reference tab 2 on my page. So for example, I have 6 tabs. I want to insert the diagram 6 times, each time on the particular tab.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So you have a 6-tab diagram, and you want to post it onto the Confluence page 6 times on different tab.
Correct. I want it to read like a story, opposed to have the user click through the tabs.
Yeah.
Can we cue the Jeopardy music?
Yeah.
You can get back to it later.
Yeah, well, I'm just trying to think of a workaround. The easiest one I can think of, just off the top of my head, would be to export it as an image. You can export it by tabs. Yeah, it doesn't solve. Yeah, thumbs down for that solution. It's a bad solution. I don't know how you. Yeah, to keep it dynamic, to keep it. Yeah, but keep them on the tabs. I don't know. Good question. Write it down. Yeah.
If you get an answer, I can send an email to just the RSVPs.
Okay.
I mean the attendees. So we can get it back to you that way. Reminded me when I saw your slide about the mobile app.
Let me write that down.
How many in this room use Confluence Server versus mobile? I don't know if you saw the news. I just saw it earlier this week that they finally released version 1.0 of Confluence Server apps for iOS and Android with some editing capabilities. And it's compatible with version 6.8 and above. So that's the latest version. So we're not there yet. So, but anyway, that's something we've been looking for a long time. So, finally we got there. So that's good, great news. It is 2 minutes before 8. So I'm going to put the mic down to start putting swag out. You guys can network a little bit. Thank you for coming. April, about a month, we'll have our next meeting. And I hope you guys enjoyed the event today.
Do we have a way to do the raffle?
Thank you. Oh, the raffle.